I'm going to ask you to lie still. Not yet. First, just listen, because if you move too soon, it'll think you're inviting it. If you breathe too fast, it will match you breath for breath, and you don't want that. You don't want it learning your rhythm. It's like giving your house key to a stranger who already knows the color of your front door. So, lie still, but only in your mind for now. We'll practice together. I'm on my back. The ceiling is where ceilings always are, a quiet gray above my face. There is a bed, and the bed remembers my shape. There is a room, and the room remembers me. You're here with me. That's important. It hates that. There are 3 knocks, quiet as a memory. I don't make them. The room does. You might not hear them yet. That's okay. Some people hear the knocks first. Some people smell the damp coins. Some people only notice the weight when it is already smiling through their teeth. If you've ever woken up and could not move, you already know the edge of this. I didn't used to have words for it. I called it the night sitter, the window face, the wet blanket. I tried to make it small with names. Names never made it small. It went by a simpler name, the thing on my chest. It never introduced itself. It never learned mine. Tonight, I'm going to talk to you, and we'll do this slowly. I'll tell you what it does. I'll tell you what it wants. I'll tell you why it doesn't sit on me anymore. Why it sits just above me, like water held in a glass, waiting to spill when my mouth opens. You don't have to believe me. You only have to keep listening. The first time it climbed onto me, I thought a cat had wandered in. A careful step, then another. The bed tilting like a whisper. I waited for claws, for warmth, for a purr. I got none of those things. I got something colder than metal and lighter than a lie. It perched. It was polite about it, almost shy. Its first gift is always politeness. The weight comes later. I tried to lift my arm. My arm was as though on a leash. I tried to turn my head. My neck was a locked drawer with my name written wrong on the brass. I wanted to scream. My mouth remembered screaming, but my tongue preferred to be still. It's easier for it when you're quiet. It likes to listen to what you're made of. If you listen with me now, really listen, you might notice your room breathing when you do. Rooms learn, beds learn. Dark learns fastest of all. It stayed there a while. I counted heartbeats to pass the time. That's how I learned its second gift. It keeps time. 3 slow knocks behind the headboard, then the streetlight outside would flicker and the room would lose a shade of gray. Knocks, flicker, darker. That's when it leaned. Do you know the feeling of a crowd leaning toward a stage when the singer finally opens their mouth? That hush that isn't quiet at all? That's how it leaned. A crowd of quiet, pressing on the edge of my teeth. It didn't have a face, not then. Just a misunderstanding where a face should be. I learned a rule. If I looked at the ceiling, it kissed my ear with a breath that felt like old rain. If I looked toward the door, the hall went further away and the thing got closer. But if I looked at that thin line of light at the base of the curtain, it waited. It hates light it can't control. Do you have a curtain? A blind? A gap under a door? Don't stare at it now. Let it sit there, like the idea of safety, like a handle you're saving for later. I didn't tell anyone for a long time, not because I was afraid of sounding strange, but because the story didn't want to be told. It prefers to be breathed, not spoken. It prefers to be shared by rooms, not mouths. But you're here and I'm here. and a story is just a room made out of listening. The second night I prepared. I kept my phone in my left hand and set it to record. The red dot glowed against my palm like a secret I was finally ready to name. The bed took a breath. The mattress tilted. The thing climbed. I counted. 1, 2, 3. Pressure leaned on my chest and began to remember me. It likes to memorize. I tried a trick. They say if you move a pinky, the rest will follow. They say the body is a nation and the smallest city can revolt first. They say a lot of things. People who don't have the thing on them. I tried to curl my smallest finger. It laughed against my rib cage. Not with sound, with weight. There's a language only pressure speaks, and it's cruelly fluent. That was when I smelled it for the first time. Not rot, not sewage. Something quieter and more honest. Damp coins, a pocket turned inside out after the rain. Old metal and a touch of basement, as if a river chose to live in someone's mouth. Do you smell it? Some do, some will. I'm not trying to scare you. I am trying to give you the words I didn't have, so you have a way back if you ever need one. I learned a second rule. It doesn't sit on you to crush you. It sits on you to line itself up. You are a shape. It is a hunger. It climbs until your shape feels like home. The third night, I made a bargain. I told it without speaking that it could sit anywhere but my chest. It answered by learning my heart's favorite pace. It became my metronome. I parted my lips just enough to prove I wasn't afraid. That was the lie I told it. Fear and invitation sound the same when you're quiet. Something small and cold touched the tip of my tongue. It tasted like a room with no windows. I learned its third gift. It loves doorways. Mouths are doorways. Sleep is a doorway. Stories are doorways. Keep that in mind. We're in one, you and I. When it crossed the threshold of my mouth, I bit down. I don't know what I bit. A string of shadow? A thought caught halfway? It felt like a thin branch that had never seen sunlight. It jerked back, the room filled with a soft, high sound, like a kettle that realized it was trapped. I would have laughed if I could move. After that, it didn't sit on me anymore. It learned something, I learned something. We gave each other a gift, distance. It lives on the ceiling now, flat as a stain. It spreads when I stare. It gathers when I close my eyes. Sometimes if I open my eyes too quickly, the stain has my face. Not really mine, just the last face it wore, pressed thin against plaster like a dried leaf in a book you forgot you owned. Maybe it's wearing me right now. Maybe it's wearing you. The fourth night, the knocks changed. Still 3, but not from behind the headboard. From inside the ceiling, measured and patient. Like someone signaling through a wall to a friend in the next cell. Who is it knocking to? I asked. The way you ask questions when your mouth won't open. It answered with breath I didn't feel on my skin, but in my bones. Don't fight. You don't hear it as a sound. You remember it as a rule. I don't want to frighten you away. I want you to stay with me. Because when you're here, it is less brave. It hates that our listening is a kind of light. Let's do something together. Let's practice not moving. You don't have to hold your breath, just hold your stillness. Imagine it sliding onto the bed, polite as the first time. Imagine it setting itself on you like a coat draped over a chair that already knows your shoulders. Now imagine you are a house with many staircases. Imagine it can't learn them all. This is how I learned the fourth rule. It can't climb what you don't name. When I feel it begin to line itself up with my tongue, I start naming the stairs. The first step is the smell of rain in July. The second is the sting of old television snow on a winter night. The third is the sound of a mother humming in a room where no one is asleep. The fourth is the place my keys have always liked to hide. The fifth is the exact cold of water left on a windowsill in November. The sixth is the way my name looks when someone writes it who wishes it was theirs. The seventh is the streetlight outside, flickering, timing the dark like a clock that only counts shadows. It hates stairs. It wants an elevator. It wants you to open the door and call its name. But it doesn't have a name you can say without giving it a room in your mouth. So don't say anything. Think in stairs. When I started naming the steps, the knocks faltered. The stain gathered itself. It waited. That's the most dangerous part. When it waits. Waiting is how it counts you. On the fifth night, I broke the phone. Not on purpose. I listened back to the recording. The little breaths, the small knocks, and found nothing. The red dot glowed. The waveforms were there. But the sound was gone. When I held the phone to my ear, I could feel something flexing inside the speaker, like a moth trying to climb out of a pocket I didn't know I had. I threw the phone across the room. It fell face down on the carpet, and I swear, only for a moment I saw breath fog the black glass. I started talking to it after that. Not out loud, with the kind of talking you do to rooms when you hope they will forgive you for living in them. I told it about the time I fell asleep on a bus and woke 3 stops too late. The city new and wrong. The sky like a lid. I told it about the old apartment where the radiator ticked like a typewriter, and I only slept when I could pretend something was writing me into the night. I told it about the person I loved who once woke me up by putting their hand over my mouth because they were laughing too hard and didn't want to wake the neighbors. It listened. That was the 5th rule. It listens when you remember. Be careful what you remember. One night I remembered a door that never closed right. It licked the memory like sugar and slid down, heavier than it had been in months. I could feel it smiling through the old wood. I changed tactics. I stopped giving it doors. I started giving it windows. There is a difference. Doors are made for hands. Windows are made for eyes. When I described the window of a childhood bedroom, paint peeling at the corners, a mosquito caught forever between screen and glass, it lost interest. When I told it about the way sunlight used to draw gold around dust, it got lighter. Light bores it. Light that isn't fear is the worst. You don't have to be brave. You only have to be bored of it. Do you feel the bed shifting yet? Does your breath feel watched? If not, that's good. If yes, that's also good. Everything that learns you can be unlearned. It tried a new trick. It began to wear my voice. In the morning, I would speak and hear a thin echo a moment later. Not an echo, not exactly. A rehearsal. I said, "Good morning," and the room said, "Good morning." Half a heartbeat later, in a voice that tasted like a rainy bus stop. I told it the 6th rule. You can rehearse me, but you can't be me. It doesn't like rules. It respects them the way water respects a line drawn on a map. That day, I didn't go to work. I didn't call anyone. I sat and listened for the knocks. Afternoon has a way of hiding in plain sight. Shadows are softer. The bed is just a bed. But the thing doesn't need night. Night only makes it polite. In daylight, it was clumsy. It fell off words it tried to wear. It tumbled through the corners of the ceiling like a bat confused by a room that isn't a cave. I almost felt sorry for it. Almost. You don't have to hate it to survive it. You only have to refuse to host it. Weeks went like that. Knocks, stains, windows for dinner and doors for dessert. I learned its 7th rule by accident. It has a favorite number, and it isn't 3. Yes, it knocks in 3s, but it is built out of 7s. 7 breaths from the floor to your mouth. 7 stairs you name to make it stumble. 7 heartbeats between polite and heavy. 7 stories it will try to tell you in your own voice before it trusts you to tell it one of yours. Would you like to hear what it told me? It told me about a room with no corners. It told me about a hallway where steps go in only one direction. It told me about a night with no edge where a person lay down to sleep and woke up inside a mouth that wasn't theirs. None of those were lies. They were just the truth, told in a language that hopes you'll misunderstand. Here is my language. Here is how I tell the truth back. You are not a doorway. You are not a hallway. You are not a room that has to forgive what enters. You are a house with locks and stairs and windows that can open when you wish. It hates that. The 8th night that I counted, I invited it to sit again. Not on me, beside me. I made a space that wasn't my body. I set it on the mattress and told it a story. I told it about you. About the person listening who has never felt weight on their chest and is wondering if this is how they learn. About the person who feels heavy already and is hoping I know a trick that isn't a trick. About the person who can smell the damp coins and is pretending not to. I told it that I talk so you don't have to count alone. The mattress tilted, the weight shifted, it became curious. It likes company. It hates a crowd. There is a difference. A crowd is what we are, you and I, when we listen at the same time. A crowd is not a collection of bodies. A crowd is a chorus of attention. It can't learn all our breaths. The 9th night, I did something it despises. I fell asleep before it arrived. That was not bravery. That was exhaustion. But it taught me something by accident. When it came late and found me already asleep, it had to make a choice. Wake me, and I would name stairs. Let me sleep, and it would only get to wear the room. It chose the room. It wore the walls like a coat. It wore the ceiling like a crown. It wore my name like a rumor. I slept through it. I woke with a wet taste in my mouth and a memory of coins on my tongue. Maybe that's victory. Maybe that's surrender. Maybe there's no difference between the two when the door stays shut. I want to give you something before we finish. Not a rule, a method. When you feel the bed tilt, imagine drawing a circle around your body with a slow thought. Start at your toes. Trace up the shins, the knees, the thighs. Draw around the hips, across the stomach, over the ribs where it loves to listen, around the shoulders, up the throat, around the mouth it mistakes for a door. Circle the eyes that are windows, not invitations. Close the loop at the top of your head. Inside that circle is a room the thing can't learn. It will try. It will press. It will be polite. Then it will be heavy. The circle won't stop it from coming close. It will stop it from believing it lives there. If you can't draw the circle, borrow mine. I've drawn so many that the chalk has stained my hands. Sometimes, the stain on the ceiling is thin enough to see stars through. Not real stars, just the memory of them. It hates that I like the stars. It can't reach that far. That's the last rule. It can't reach as far as your joy. Not your bravery. Bravery is a word for when you are already scared. Joy is the part of you that doesn't need doors or windows or stairs. Joy is a skylight. Talk about what you love out loud, even if your mouth won't open. Talk about the coffee you like only when it's gone cold. Talk about the dog you had when you were 9 that learned your favorite corner of the couch. Talk about the first song that ever made your hands shake. Talk about the smell of the person you trust most after rain. It gets bored. Boredom is the first step to leaving. I don't promise it will leave forever. I don't promise it will be kind. I promise you aren't alone. I promised it a story, and I've kept my promise. It has one to keep, too. 3 knocks. Listen. 1. You heard that, didn't you? Maybe you didn't with your ears. Maybe you did with your skin. 2. Don't count too loud. It loves a countdown. It loves a launch. 3. There it is. The room turned one shade darker and then remembered to breathe. If it tries to sit tonight, let it know it isn't special. Let it know there's a crowd listening with you. Let it know there are stairs it hasn't learned, and windows it can't fog, and names it doesn't get to wear. And if your tongue feels heavy, don't force it light. The heaviness is only the story gathering itself. You can swallow a story and still tell it later. I have something else for you. Sometimes late, when the stain grows thin and greedy, it wears my face. It looks down and smiles the smile I forgot in an old photograph. It shows me my teeth and asks me to open. I keep my mouth shut. I tell it about you again. I tell it about the person who made it through this entire telling, who is listening in a quiet room, who is smarter than fear. It doesn't laugh. It doesn't know how. It only knows how to press. Let it press. Let it count. Let it knock. We have all night, and it hates that we don't mind. If you want to make it angry, really angry, do this. Tell someone else what you heard, not the most frightening part. Tell them the part where you weren't afraid. Tell them the part where you were bored. Tell them the part where you thought about stars and forgot it was there. It can't stand being forgotten. It will flail. It will flicker. It will try on your voice and find it doesn't fit quite right. And if you wake with the taste of damp coins on your pillow, remember, it only means you closed the door before it wanted you to. It will try again. You can try again too. This is the part where a storyteller asks you for something. I'm not going to break the room we've made by turning it into a marketplace, but I'm not going to lie either. If you felt lighter while listening, come back. If you felt heavier, bring that weight back too. We take turns carrying it, you and I, and somehow it gets smaller when we do. When the room is quiet later and you think you hear me in the hall, you don't. You hear it practicing. Let it practice. We'll practice too. Next time, I'll tell you about the window that learned my name, about the hallway that only went one way, about the night that had an edge, and how I stood on it and waved until the dark waved back. You don't have to set a reminder. It will. It loves appointments. It will schedule itself with your breath. But if you'd like me to be there when it arrives, if you want a crowd waiting at the door with you, you know how to find me. Not because it helps me, because it hates when you're not alone. If you choose to keep listening, if you choose to stay with me in this not quite light, then we'll make a habit of refusing to be doorways. We'll be staircases. We'll be windows. We'll be skylights. 3 more knocks before we go. Soft ones. The kind that don't ask, They promise. 1. You are not a doorway. 2. You are not a mouth waiting to be worn. 3. You are a house with a sky. Good night. I'll see you where the room gets lighter first. And if you smell damp coins, smile a little. You know what to do now. Let it knock. Let it wait. We are not alone.